I never thought I'd be the one standing in the corner of a fancy corporate party with spit up on my tie and dark circles under my eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. But there I was, 32 years old, a widower with a 6-month-old daughter, trying desperately to keep my career afloat while my world was crumbling around me. What happened next would change everything, when the most influential woman in the company witnessed my humiliation and made a choice that would alter both our lives forever. If you've ever felt like an outsider or struggled to balance life's impossible demands, this story might just give you the hope you need today. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real stories about the moments that transform ordinary lives into extraordinary journeys. The invitation had arrived 3 weeks earlier, embossed with the company logo and promising an evening of celebration and networking at the CEO's mansion. Under normal circumstances, I would have been thrilled. These annual parties were where careers were made, where handshakes over champagne turned into promotions by Monday morning. But nothing in my life qualified as normal circumstances anymore. 8 months ago, my wife Ellie had gone to the hospital to deliver our daughter, Lily. Only Lily had come home. A rare complication, amniotic fluid embolism, they called it, had taken Ellie within hours. One moment I was a husband eagerly awaiting fatherhood, the next, I was a widower with a newborn and no idea how to move forward. I worked as a mid-level marketing manager at Horizon Enterprises, a company that prided itself on its cutthroat culture and relentless drive for excellence. Taking paternity leave had already marked me as uncommitted in the eyes of my boss, Richard Keller. Coming back sleep-deprived and constantly distracted hadn't helped my reputation. The invitation to the CEO's party felt less like an opportunity and more like a test I was destined to fail. "You have to go, Daniel," my sister Kate had insisted when I called her, ready to RSVP with my regrets. "You've been hiding since Ellie died. This is your chance to remind them you're still valuable to the company." "And what about Lily?" I'd asked, glancing at my daughter as she slept in her swing, her tiny chest rising and falling. "My regular sitter can't do evenings." "I'll watch her," Kate had offered, though I knew she had her hands full with her own 3 kids. "Just for a few hours. Go, network, have an adult conversation that doesn't involve diaper brands." So there I was, standing awkwardly by the appetizer table in a suit that hung a little looser than it had a year ago. I'd lost weight since Ellie died, a combination of grief and the simple fact that I often forgot to eat until Lily's cries reminded me that humans need sustenance. I'd managed to get my hair cut the day before, but Lily had been up all night with a fever, and the exhaustion showed on my face. I checked my phone for the 5th time in 10 minutes. No texts from Kate. That was good, it meant Lily was fine. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and reached for a stuffed mushroom, hoping that eating something might make me look less like I was just occupying space. "Daniel! You actually showed up." Richard's voice boomed from behind me. My boss clapped a heavy hand on my shoulder, nearly causing me to choke on the mushroom. "We were taking bets on whether you'd make it or if you'd be too busy with, daddy duty." He said the words "daddy duty" with a smirk that made my skin crawl. Richard was in his 50s, divorced 3 times, with adult children he rarely mentioned. He wore his 60-hour workweeks like badges of honor. "Wouldn't miss it," I managed, forcing a smile. "Great party. Glad you could find a babysitter. Or did you bring the little one? Could have stashed her under the dessert table." He laughed at his own joke, a little too loudly. I noticed he was already on what must have been his 3rd or 4th drink. "My sister's watching her," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral despite the anger bubbling up inside me. "She's been a huge help since Ellie passed." Richard's face flickered with something that might have been sympathy, but it vanished so quickly I couldn't be sure. Right. Tough break, that. But life goes on, eh? Speaking of which, let me introduce you to some people who matter. Before I could respond, he was steering me toward a group of executives I recognized but had rarely spoken with. Among them was Vivian Chen, the newly appointed Chief Operating Officer who had a reputation for brilliance and uncompromising standards. At 45, she had climbed the corporate ladder with remarkable speed, breaking through glass ceilings and taking no prisoners along the way. The gossip around the office was that she was unmarried and childless by choice, having dedicated her life to her career. "Everyone, this is Daniel from my team," Richard announced, as if I were a curiosity he'd discovered. "He's our resident family man. Single dad, if you can believe it. Still trying to keep up with the rest of us despite the, domestic challenges." I felt my face grow hot as several pairs of eyes turned to me with expressions ranging from mild interest to outright pity. "How admirable," said one of the VPs, a man whose name I couldn't recall. "Must be difficult to stay focused on work with all that going on at home." "I manage," I said, wishing I could come up with something more impressive. "My daughter's worth it." "Of course she is," Richard said with exaggerated sincerity. "But between us, Daniel's productivity has taken quite a hit. We're carrying a bit of extra weight in the department these days, if you know what I mean." The group chuckled, and I felt something inside me shrivel. 6 years at this company, consistently positive reviews until Ellie died, and now I was the punchline to a joke. "I should get another drink," I muttered, desperate to escape. "Don't be so sensitive, Daniel," Richard called after me. "We're just having a little fun." I made my way to the bar, ordered a sparkling water instead of the whiskey I desperately wanted, and found a quiet corner where I could check my phone again. Still nothing from Kate. I debated texting her just to have an excuse to look busy, when I felt a presence beside me. "They're insufferable, aren't they?" said a cool, composed voice. I looked up to find Vivian Chen standing next to me, a glass of red wine in her hand. Up close, she was even more intimidating, impeccably dressed in a tailored black suit, not a hair out of place, radiating the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly who you were and what you were worth. "Ms. Chen," I said, straightening up. "I didn't see you there." "Vivian, please," she said. "And you're Daniel Reeves." Marketing team, digital strategy focus, joined the company 6 years ago after a successful stint at a smaller firm in Chicago. I blinked in surprise. "You know who I am?" A slight smile curved her lips. "I make it my business to know the talented people in this company, regardless of what blowhards like Richard Keller might say about them." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. I glanced down to see a text from Kate. "Lily's fever is back. 101.2, gave her Tylenol but she's very fussy. How soon can you come home?" My heart sank. "I'm sorry," I said to Vivian. "I need to go. My daughter is sick." I expected to see the same disappointment or judgment I'd grown accustomed to from my colleagues. Instead, Vivian nodded. "Family emergency? My daughter has a fever. She's only 6 months old, and since her mother died." I trailed off, not wanting to burden this virtual stranger with my problems. "Go," she said simply. "Your daughter needs you." I nodded gratefully and turned to leave, but Richard chose that moment to reappear, this time with the CEO in tow. "Daniel. There you are. James was just asking about the Westfield campaign. Perfect timing." "Actually, I was just leaving," I said. "Family emergency." Richard's face darkened. "You've been here less than an hour. Surely whatever it is can wait another hour or two. This is important." "My daughter is sick," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "She needs me." "Oh, for God's sake," Richard muttered. "This is exactly what I was talking about. No commitment to the job. Always running home for one crisis or another." "Richard," I started, but he cut me off. "No, I'm serious. We've all made accommodations for your situation, Daniel, but there comes a point where you have to decide what matters more, your career or playing Mr. Mom. Because you can't have both, not at this level." The room seemed to go quiet, though I knew it was just the blood rushing in my ears. 6 months of sleep deprivation, grief, and stress had worn my patience paper thin, and I was one heartbeat away from saying something I couldn't take back. "That's enough, Richard." Vivian's voice cut through the tension like a blade. She stepped forward, positioning herself slightly in front of me, facing Richard and the CEO. "Daniel is leaving because his infant daughter is ill and needs medical attention. That doesn't reflect a lack of commitment, it reflects having priorities in the right order." Richard's face flushed. "With all due respect, Vivian, you don't understand the situation. Daniel's personal circumstances have been affecting his work for months now." "Have they?" Vivian raised an eyebrow. "Because I reviewed the marketing department's performance metrics last week, and Daniel's team has maintained consistent results despite being understaffed. In fact, the Westfield campaign he developed brought in 20% more leads than projected." The CEO looked surprised. "Is that right?" "It is," Vivian confirmed. "Which makes me wonder why his manager is publicly undermining him instead of supporting a valuable employee through a difficult time." Richard opened and closed his mouth, looking like a fish suddenly finding itself on dry land. "I wasn't, that's not what I—" "Daniel," Vivian turned to me, "go take care of your daughter. We can discuss the Westfield campaign on Monday." "Thank you," I managed, relief washing over me. As I turned to leave, Vivian added, "And Richard? I'd like to see you in my office first thing Monday morning. We need to discuss your management approach." I didn't stay to see Richard's reaction. I grabbed my coat and was in my car within minutes, calling Kate to tell her I was on my way. That night, as I sat in the rocking chair with Lily finally asleep against my chest, her fever having broken after another dose of medicine, I replayed the scene in my mind. No one had ever stood up for me like that, not since Ellie died. Most people offered sympathy but kept their distance, as if single parenthood might be contagious. Vivian Chen had done more than offer empty words, she had put her considerable professional weight behind me when I needed it most. Monday morning came too quickly. Lily had recovered from her fever but had decided that 4:30 a.m. was the perfect time to start her day. By the time I dropped her at daycare and made it to the office, I was already running on fumes and my second cup of coffee. I had barely settled at my desk when my phone rang with a call from Vivian Chen's assistant, requesting my presence in her office immediately. My stomach dropped. Had I misread the situation at the party? Was I about to be reprimanded or, worse, let go? Vivian's office was on the top floor, a corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the city. She was seated behind a sleek desk, reviewing documents on her computer when I arrived. "Daniel, come in," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her. "How's your daughter?" "Better, thank you," I said, surprised by the personal question. "Her fever broke that night." "Good." She nodded, then got straight to the point. "I've been reviewing the structure of our marketing department, and I've identified some inefficiencies that need to be addressed." My heart sank. This was it, the part where she explained that while she sympathized with my situation, the company needed people who could give 110%. "Richard Keller is being reassigned to our regional office in Phoenix," she continued. "His management style is not aligned with the culture we're building here." I blinked, trying to process what she was saying. "Richard is leaving?" "Yes." "Which creates an opening for a new director of marketing." She looked at me directly. "I'd like to offer you the position." For a moment, I couldn't speak. "Me? But I'm not even a senior manager yet." "Titles are just labels, Daniel. I care about results and character. You've consistently delivered the former, and Friday night confirmed the latter." She leaned forward slightly. "That said, I understand this would be a significant change, with more responsibility and different demands on your time. Given your situation, I want to be clear about what this would entail." She outlined the role: higher salary, more strategic work, a team of 8 reporting to me. But then she said something I never expected to hear in a promotion conversation. We'll also implement flexible working arrangements. You can work from home 2 days a week, and we'll adjust meeting schedules to accommodate daycare hours. The company will cover emergency childcare services when needed. I stared at her, wondering if I was hallucinating from sleep deprivation. Why would you do this? Vivian's expression softened slightly. Because talent shouldn't be wasted due to circumstances beyond one's control. Because I believe people perform better when they aren't forced to choose between being good parents and good employees. She paused. And because I know what it's like to be underestimated and dismissed. You do? I couldn't imagine anyone underestimating Vivian Chen. 20 years ago, I was passed over for promotion 5 times because the company didn't think a young Asian woman could handle leadership responsibilities. I had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. Her eyes held mine steadily. Different circumstances, same principle. People make assumptions about what you can or cannot do based on factors that have nothing to do with your abilities. I nodded slowly, understanding dawning. So this is about proving them wrong? This is about giving you the opportunity to prove them wrong, she corrected. The rest is up to you. Can you do this job, Daniel? Can you lead this team while being the father your daughter needs? I thought about Ellie, about the promises I'd made to her in those final hours. That I would take care of our daughter. That I would make sure she grew up knowing how much her mother had loved her. That I would build a good life for us, somehow. Yes, I said, with more confidence than I'd felt in months. I can do this. Good. Vivian handed me a folder. Here's the formal offer. Review it, and we'll meet again tomorrow to discuss any questions or concerns. As I stood to leave, she added, one more thing, Daniel. I don't want you to think this is charity or special treatment. I'm offering you this position because you've earned it. The accommodations are simply removing unnecessary barriers to your success. Is that clear? Crystal clear, I said. Thank you, Vivian. Don't thank me yet, she replied with the hint of a smile. Thank me when you've proven me right. The next 6 months were the hardest and most rewarding of my professional life. The learning curve for my new role was steep, and there were days when I questioned Vivian's judgment in promoting me. But for every late night spent reviewing marketing strategies after Lily went to bed, there was a morning where I could work from home while she played in her playpen beside my desk. For every challenging conversation with a difficult client, there was the satisfaction of seeing my team thrive under a management style that valued both results and well-being. Vivian proved to be a demanding but fair mentor. She pushed me to grow beyond my comfort zone but never questioned my commitment when family needs took priority. Gradually, I stopped expecting the other shoe to drop, the moment when she would decide that accommodating my life as a single parent was too much trouble. One evening, nearly a year after that fateful party, I was working late in my office when Vivian stopped by on her way out. Still here? She asked, leaning against my doorframe. I thought Thursdays were your early days. Lily's at my sister's for a sleepover, I explained. Thought I'd use the time to get ahead on the quarterly report. Vivian nodded approvingly. The report looks good, by the way. Your team's numbers are impressive. Thank you. They've really stepped up. Teams reflect their leadership, she said. You've done well, Daniel. Better than I expected, if I'm being honest. Coming from Vivian, this was high praise indeed. I had good motivation, I said. And good support. She acknowledged this with a slight nod. Have you eaten? I was about to grab.